With the colder seasons rolling in, I started to look into other ways to continue to grow food. A greenhouse was one idea, but I thought using a hydroponic method may be easier. So if you've had a similar interest, come along with me as I set up a new indoor growing system. So VIVOSUN reached out to me and asked if I could review their DWC hydroponic system kit, and I felt this would be a great opportunity to help those shopping around for this style of indoor growing and allow me to learn a little bit more about hydroponics. I started by planting some seeds into VIVOSUN's seed starter tray. As my grow media, I used Root Riot organic plant starter cubes since I had some left over from my previous hydroponic project, but you can also use other grow media types. So for this test, or for this review, I decided to plant a few bell peppers and tomatoes. This is my first time using a seed starter tray like this, but I can say so far I like the adjustable vent that you can use to manage the moisture and the temperature levels. VIVOSUN also sent me one of their heat mats, which seems to be well made and performed well during the testing period. To help prevent algae growth, I placed a piece of cardboard over the seed tray cells not in use. I then worked on setting up the 5-gallon hydroponic buckets. I began with installing the parts needed for the water level tube. The red ball is used as a quick visual to help locate the water level. I then worked on installing the inner bucket components. Afterwards, I set up the included air pump. One of the challenging parts of this process was probably installing the black tubing over the different parts, since the inner diameter of the tubing is a bit small, but that also means I won't have to worry about the tubing blowing off. Off camera, I did try using soap and water and a hairdryer to soften the tubing, which seemed to help a little. I also thought it was quite interesting that the same air pump controls the drip irrigation tube as well as the air stones. At this point, I was concerned if the air pump will be large enough to take on both tasks for all 4 buckets, but we'll find out later in the video. Once all 4 hydroponic buckets were assembled, I temporarily organized the buckets the same way I plan to have them positioned on my grow rack. This way I could figure out how long to cut the remaining pieces of black tubing. I did like the VIVOSUN included airflow regulators that would give me the ability to control the airflow to each bucket. I then began to wash and clean the included clay pebbles and grow media. After researching a little, it was recommended to also boil the pebbles in hot water to help sanitize and remove anything lingering inside the pebbles. After boiling the clay pebbles, I noticed around the rim of the pot there was a brown powder substance, so it looks like boiling does help remove additional particles on or in the pebbles. After the pebbles were cleaned, I cleaned all my hydroponic components and then filled each bucket with water until it reached the bottom of the grow basket. I then placed the air pump on a towel to help dampen the noise of the pump, which is a bit loud in my opinion compared to my other air pump. However, since this grow rack is located in my basement, the noise didn't bother me too much, but it is something to keep in mind if you don't plan to have it in an enclosed grow tent or room. After the buckets were installed, I added some liquid plant nutrients and transplanted my bell pepper seedlings. One lesson I learned while working with clay pebbles and transplanting your plants is to temporarily remove some of the pebbles to place your plant in a suitable position height-wise, and then add pebbles around the seedling. I then adjusted my grow lights to be closer to the plants. After a week or so passed by, I noticed most of the plants were still doing well. I did have one bell pepper plant that ran into an issue that I believe was a mistake I made, but overall I like that this hydroponic kit included everything needed to get started. Using the red floating ball to check the water level was also a nice feature I liked. I also like that if I needed to drain the water or test the nutrient solution, I can temporarily rotate the water level tube downwards. The airstone in each bucket also appeared to be working correctly. I did notice a little bit of algae growing on the clay pebbles in one of my buckets, and since algae has the potential to slow plant growth, to get ahead of the issue, I covered the top of the bucket with some leftover reflective film. As I mentioned before, the air pump and the irrigation system are a bit noisy, so I'd recommend storing this system in a closable room like a garage, a closet, or a grow tent. I do plan to experiment with hydroponic systems a little more during the next few months, so if you enjoyed this video and would like me to continue to bring you along as I venture into hydroponics, be sure to let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to help support this channel and so you don't miss out on future videos. Until next time, thanks for watching.